Good morning. Last time we left right in the middle of chapter 11 of the Phantom Tollbooth, and we were about to meet the Doctor of Dissonance. Have you ever heard a blindfolded octopus unwrap a cellophane-covered bathtub? He inquired, again as the air was filled with loud, crinkling, snapping sound. Sitting at the table, busily mixing and measuring, was the man who had invited them in. He was wearing a long white coat with a stethoscope around his neck and a small round mirror attached to his forehead. And the only really noticeable thing about him were his tiny mustache and his enormous ears, each of which was fully as large as his head. "Are you a doctor?" asked Milo, trying to feel as well as possible. "I am Cacophonous, a discord, Doctor of Dissonance," roared the man, and as he spoke, several small explosions and a grinding crash were heard. "What does the A stand for?" stammered the nervous bug, too frightened to move. Look at that guy. His ears. That's hilarious. "As loud as possible!" bellowed the doctor, and two screeches and a bump accompanied his response. "Now step a little closer and stick out your tongues." "Just as I suspected," he continued, opening a large dusty book and thumbing through the pages. "You're suffering from a severe lack of noise." He began to jump around the wagon, snatching bottles from the shelves until he had a large assortment in various colors and sizes collected at one end of the table. All were neatly labeled: liquid cries, soft cries, bangs, bongs, smashes, crashes, swishes, swooshes, snaps, and crackles, whistles and gongs, squeaks, squawks, and miscellaneous uproar. After pouring a little of each into a large glass beaker, he stirred the mixture thoroughly with a wooden spoon, watching intently as smoke and steam and boiled as it smoked and steamed and boiled and bubbled. "Be ready in just a moment," he explained, rubbing his hands together. Milo had never seen such an unpleasant-looking medicine and wasn't at all anxious to try it. "Just what kind of doctor are you?" he asked suspiciously. "Well, you might say I'm a specialist," said the doctor. "I specialize in noise, all kinds, from the loudest to the softest, and from the slightly annoying to the terribly unpleasant. For instance, have you ever heard a square-wheeled steamroller ride over a street full of hard-boiled eggs?" he asked, and as he did, all that could be heard were loud, crunching sounds. "But who would want all those terrible noises?" asked Milo, holding his ears. "Everybody does," said the surprised doctor. "They're very popular today. Why, I've kept so busy I can hardly fill the orders for noise pills, racket lotion, clamor salve, and hubbub tonic. That's all people seem to want these days." He stirred the beaker of liquid a few more times and then, as the steam cleared, continued, "Business wasn't always so good. Years ago, everyone wanted pleasant sounds, and, except for a few orders during wars and earthquakes, things were very bad. But then the big cities were built, and there was a great need for honking horns, screeching trains, clanging bells, deafening shouts, piercing shrieks, gurgling drains, and all the rest of those wonderfully unpleasant sounds we use so much of today. Without them, people would be very unhappy, so I make sure they get as much as they want. Why, if you take a little of my medicine every day, you'll never have to hear a beautiful sound again. Here, try some." "If it's all the same to you, I'd rather not," said the humbug, backing away to the far corner of the wagon. "I don't want to be cured of beautiful sounds," insisted Milo. "Besides," growled Talk, who decided he didn't much like Dr. Discord. "There is no such illness as lack of noise." "Of course not," replied the doctor, pouring himself a small glass of the liquid. "That's what makes it so difficult to cure. I only treat illnesses that don't exist. That way, if I can't cure them, there's no harm done. Just one of the precautions of the trade." he concluded, and seeing that no one was about to take his medicine, he again reached toward the shelf, removed a dark amber bottle, dusted it carefully, and placed it on the table in front of him. Very well. If you want to go all through life suffering from a noise deficiency, I'll give it all to the din for his lunch, he said, and he uncorked the bottle with a hollow popping sound. For a moment, everything was quiet as Milo, Talk, and the humbug looked intently at the bottle, wondering what Dr. Discord would do next. Then, very faintly at first, they heard a low rumbling that sounded miles away. Then it grew louder and louder and louder and closer and closer and closer until it became a deafening, ear-splitting roar that seemed to be coming from inside the tiny bottle. Then from the bottle, a thick bluish smog spiraled to the ceiling, spread out, and gradually assumed the shape of a thick bluish smog with hands, feet, bright yellow eyes, and a large frowning mouth. As soon as the smog had gotten completely out of the bottle, it grasped the beaker of liquid, tilted back what would have been its head, and if it really had one, and drank it all in 3 gulps. Ah, that was good, master, he bellowed, shaking the whole wagon. I thought you'd never let me out, terribly cramped in there. This is my assistant, the awful Din, said Dr. Discord. You must forgive his appearance, for he really doesn't have any. You see, he is an orphan whom I raised myself without benefit of governess or any assistance, for no nurse is good nurse, interrupted the Din, doubling up with laughter, if you can imagine a thick bluish smog doubling up with laughter. Here he is, the Din, having a good chuckle. For I found him, he continued the doctor, ignoring this outburst, living alone and unwanted in an abandoned soda bottle without family or relatives. No niece is good niece, roared the Din again, with a laugh that sounded like several sirens going off at once, and he slapped it where his knees should have been. And I brought him here, continued the exasperated Discord, where, despite his lack of shape or features, I trained. No nose is good nose, thundered the Din. Once again, he collapsed in another fit of hysterics and clutched his sides. And I think we're going to leave it there. The silly-looking Din, laughing at his loud jokes. Until next time.